Okay, I just want to do a quick video on the fact that there is no excuse now for any dev team not to have highly detailed and active, relevant documentation. So what you see here is the project I posted yesterday here, which is this video, this MVP, which is basically an interceptor of network traffic and a UI. And I had a massive thread with Cloud here. I started actually with 3.7. I'm using the new Opus 4.0. You can see massive thread working together, making changes. You can see here my interactions, my flows, for example, changes, my comment to it, etc. And then etc. So then what I've done in the end was once we got everything working, like here, there, right? Let's see. I basically then said, great, now I've got my MVP. I pushed the code here. I put a link there, video. Can you write your documentation? And what we did, it wrote this README file, which I'll show in a second. Architecture, content replacement, FSL bypass, development, really amazing documents. And I even asked it to create a README file. So these files are these ones here. So you can see there is the README file, self-contained explanation, what this does, how to set it up, what works today, etc. A nice view of the architecture, which is exactly this, completely spot on. The project structure, the files, and then some usage, etc. Right? Fucking cool. Right? This is really good documentation, right? What works, what doesn't work, next steps, advanced. There's the links to the links above, and even the documentation section. Like, check this out. So you got documentation. It's for documents, for users, for developers, security researchers. A nice explanation of what each of these files has. Like here, for example, really nice explanation of the architecture, actually the original steps we tried, the current architecture, literally a nice top-level view of it, how the interception works, the content storage layer, which is spot on, the backend API layer, really, really cool, right? And for example, this part here is quite nice, the content replacement, which explains the flow, how it works, the configuration file, absolutely spot on, all the fields in there, the text replacement, how it works, the multiple types of rules that this version already supports. See the video if you want to understand how it works. And, really good stuff. But like, this is really nice, solid documentation and all created from the code, right? So it also means that as I make changes to the code, I can keep these updated, right? And this is one of the powers of the LLMs, right? Like this, in the past, we have taken a ridiculous amount of time to create and most important to maintain, right? So again, like with the SSL bypass, which was a key element of this, and this again, if you look at the principles, because a lot of the times, work with LLMs, I work in principles. So I defined the principles that we want, and this was key principles that I wanted, which define how Claude come up with a solution. And then, there's a bunch of still hacks here that I'm going to clean up later, but it's really cool to document everything. And this was a key element of making this work. And then, of course, in the end, it does say, like, don't use this for production, this is testing, etc. Right? But this is really powerful, right? To capture this in a really nice way, And again, there's no excuse now for teams that have really, really solid documentation for what they do and keep it up to date, right? Because that's the key.